Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Dan Lawrence. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Writing, Language, and Literature at the University of Wisconsin-Superior, and I am your professor for this course. Very happy to be here. I love this course, love teaching this course. It is Writing 303 Introduction to Rhetoric, and I hope you enjoy it too. This sounds a little bit scary, right? It's a scary sounding course. What is rhetoric? Maybe you've taken some writing classes where on the periphery you've heard people talking about rhetoric, and now we're going to lift the veil and see what this field of study is. And I hope you'll enjoy it. I think you will. Be patient as you get acclimated to the course and go slowly and go deliberately. Rhetoric is the art of persuasion. That's the oversimplified version. But what it really is a field of study that's been incredibly important to human experience for about 2,000 years. And in this course, we'll kind of start with a bit of a historical approach, really. And much of the course is mapped onto a sort of historical approach to the major developments and thinkers throughout rhetoric. But we start in ancient Greece and in a little bit even some of the context leading up to ancient Greece. We'll read some incredible dialogues by Plato. We'll read some texts by Aristotle. We'll learn about the social and cultural and political context that led into their thinking. We'll transition into ancient Roman rhetoric and read some Cicero and Quintilian. And then near the end of the semester, we'll fast forward to the present day and read some contemporary or really modern, rather American rhetorical thinking. And then at the very end, think about contemporary applications for rhetoric. So it's the art of persuasion, and it's very useful. I mean, I think not that right now that we need to have some kind of practical application for it to be useful or meaningful, but we do. Rhetoric as the art of persuasion is deeply intertwined with the work that you do as a writer. You're always writing for an audience. You may have heard that somewhat silly but thought provoking cliche that everything is an argument. Every time you write something or say something, you're taking a position or a stance. You're trying to articulate some kind of, or articulate with a purpose to convince or to make another person think differently about the world. Rhetoric is useful in, even the corporate sphere, right? In advertising and marketing. Political candidates who want you to vote a particular way, they're thinking about these things. You'll see that, the reason why rhetoric first emerged into human consciousness was out of necessity. That's George Kennedy's position. Ancient Athenians who would have to defend themselves in a court of law, well, you better learn how to speak well and persuasively and convincingly if you're going to be defending yourself in a court of law. But then, through the developments that we track, you'll see with Plato's Phaedrus, for example, a dialogue that we spend a lot of time with, these ancient thinkers started to realize that persuasive speech could be used for malevolent and nefarious purposes. And if you need an example of what that would mean, go to the 20th century and think about Hitler in Germany. That's the not only persuasive speech, but also the use of mass communication technologies to persuade people. And doesn't it work? Can't a person be incredibly persuasive and convincing and change the course of history and change the way you think about the world, whether for good or evil? Um, that's what the ancient thinkers realized too, is that speech can be almost like a drug. You'll see Plato use the word pharmakon. Speech can be, and writing, I mean, communication can have an almost drug like effect on people. It can spellbind them and change the way they perceive reality. And we don't fully understand the mechanisms by which that work. There is no in that sense, there's no like science of advertising and marketing. There's some psychology that's useful, but there's no grand theory that explains how do you change someone's mind, or how do you get them to think a particular way, right? That's why rhetoric is an art form, essentially. It's it cannot be perfectly quantified how persuasion works. Persuasion cannot be perfectly quantified and captured into some numerical set of data or some formula, at least not yet in human experience. That's why we're in the humanities. So this is rhetoric. Sorry, a little rambling there, but rhetoric is incredibly important because it can help you become a more persuasive writer, a more persuasive speaker as well. It also gives you a toolkit for analyzing inbound messages into your life. With rhetoric, you no longer need to be a passive bystander, a passive observer to, say, an advertisement. You can pick it apart and think about how is it using language to persuade, what are the various appeals that it's functioning by, how is it trying to work you over. So rhetoric is an incredibly significant toolkit both to create messaging and to analyze the onslaught of various inbound messages in your life. So it's a fantastic field of study that's sometimes overlooked. My PhD is in rhetoric and technical communication, so you're in good hands here. This is my area of expertise. We have an excellent textbook that we're using. It's an Introduction to Classical Rhetoric Essential Readings. After we move past the classical period later in the semester, we'll get into some readings that will be in Canvas, Bitzer's Rhetorical Situation, and then some contemporary readings as well. What else, my friends? I also teach a Writing 401 Advanced Rhetoric Theory and Practice. So when the course is finished, if you like this field of study, there's more. There's more to explore. Certainly, we're just scratching the surface here. And I suppose I would say, to succeed in this course, I think there's often a lot of anxiety. Students are exposed to a lot of new names and new ideas and ancient Greek proper nouns, and it sometimes overwhelms students at first. So my biggest tip with this course is be patient and try to just absorb and read slowly. Rhetoric is kind of a sister field of study to philosophy. It's not meant to be You're not meant to speed read through these texts. It's really it's a process of thought. Uh, Rhetoric could be called a different mode of being, a different way of interacting with reality. To interact with reality rhetorically is to question the intent of speakers. It's to question the motives of individuals and to analyze the messages that they're creating and communicating with. Rhetoric can be a way of interacting with the world. So it's not meant to be sped through. There's no, it's not like we have a midterm exam where you're going to be tested on vocabulary or anything like that. There's no test of dates or the various wars that took place in ancient Greece. So even though you should try to learn as much as you can about the time periods that we're moving through, the main focus here is that you're engaging with the central ideas, you're reading the texts and the dialogues and thinking about them seriously, you're reflecting on them, you're digging deep into this material. That's what I want to see. I don't want to twist your arm and make you memorize things about the Peloponnesian War or something like that, or the various rulers that came and went through ancient Rome and all of its emperors. That's not the point of this course. The point of this course is to get you to engage with the field of rhetoric and think about these key concepts that are going to emerge from the text that we're reading and from this time period. So that's the case for this. I think all great writers have read Plato and Aristotle and have thought about Socrates, and so you're in good company when you read these things. That might be a little bit of an overstatement, but rhetoric used to be a central part of a proper Western education, we might say. That historically seems to be the case, is that for the last 2,000 years, rhetoric has been a central part of education. And it's really only in the last, there's some important shifts over the last 100 years or so, but rhetoric is no longer part of public education curriculum in public schools in the United States. And that's kind of interesting why it's been pushed to the sidelines, but we won't go there right off the bat. Anyway, sorry, this was a little less concise than I wanted it to be, but welcome to the course. I'm really glad you're here. Rhetoric is a very interesting field of study. You'll see the Canvas page is laid out really clearly with the week-by-week modules. The assignments tab has the projects you'll be working on, a fun video project to get things off the bat where, like I was talking about, there's a lot of terminology in the course, so this first video project, you'll choose a term, define it, give it some context. Then we're going to move on. We'll have a really nice research paper about Plato's Phaedrus, which is a fascinating dialogue, amazing themes about the relationship between madness and creativity and truth and rhetoric. It's a really profound, interesting dialogue that I think you'll enjoy. Then the second research paper, you'll choose an object or a text or a speech or an advertisement to conduct your very own rhetorical analysis on. So there is some freedom with that second research paper. And then there is a final exam, which will be essay style, kind of open-ended prompt for you to think about, which will be related to core themes that we come across in the class and from the readings. So, my friends, I think that's it. On top of that, there's the discussion board. So that's where all your points come from. Discussion board, video project, research paper 1, research paper 2, final exam. That constitutes the points for the class. But you know what? All that's in the syllabus. So make sure you read that syllabus and you'll understand the game plan and the trajectory of this course. And if you need me, shoot me an email. I'm here for you. I'm on your side. I'm on your team. I want you to succeed. I want you to learn a lot. I want you to write interesting things that are interesting to you and important to you. I want you to explore these concepts and these themes. And I hope that it's a fun adventure for you. At the very least, I think that it's an interesting adventure into a different time period where we get a glimpse of where some of these central ideas like democracy come from, and also the central clashes and conflicts and unresolved problems that we still haven't figured out today, like what is that relationship between truth and rhetoric? You'll see Plato really struggle with that. And it's a problem that still we haven't really detangled it yet today, is what do you do with a persuasive speaker who's lying to the public? And is it sometimes, you'll see Cicero and Quintilian ask questions like this, is it sometimes right to not tell the truth to the public? And what does that mean? And what does that entail? And what would an ideal society look like? And wonderful ideas to play with. Fascinating, interesting ideas to play with. So, welcome. I'm going to keep this under 15 minutes. I hope you enjoy the course. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have you here. If you need anything, don't panic. I'm here to help you. Send me an email. We'll sort things out. We'll get you on the right track. So think of me as a resource through the whole course. I'm here to help guide you through it. Thanks for being here. Stay tuned and keep at it. You're going to do just fine.